They called it training, not merely thinking. To the Stoics, the mind was a faculty that could be strengthened, directed, and prepared the way a soldier prepares for winter or a sailor studies stars before a voyage. Adversity was not an anomaly that deserved outrage. It was a given feature of human life. Therefore, the art of living was the art of anticipating what would inevitably arrive and cultivating a steady, disciplined interior posture toward it. From Zeno of Citium, who began his philosophical journey after losing his ship and cargo at sea, to Epictetus, who transformed life as an enslaved person into a platform for philosophical freedom. The tradition honed methods are practical, repeatable, and rigorous. The core promise was not that hardship would disappear, but that the person encountering it would become unshakable, lucid, and able to turn events to benefit. To train for adversity, they fused reason with habit. They sought to understand the mind's tendencies, correct its distortions, and install reflexes that operate reliably when fear, grief, or anger surge. This was not a system of denial. It was a discipline of perception, judgment, desire, and action, so well rehearsed that even under pressure the practitioner could act in accordance with a chosen purpose rather than an anxious impulse. If this perspective resonates with you, take a moment now to subscribe, like, and leave a brief comment with one practice you'd like to try. Your support helps more people discover ideas that strengthen the mind. The Stoic project began with a sharp distinction. What is up to us and what is not? This dichotomy of control is not a slogan. It is the axle on which the wheel turns. Up to us are our judgments, intentions, efforts, and chosen responses. Not up to us are outcomes, reputations, bodily health, wealth, and the behavior of others. Much of human suffering arises when we smuggle the second category into the first and take responsibility for weather, chance, and the choices of other people. Training for adversity means drilling the mind to sort phenomena rapidly into these two baskets. To do so, they used phrases like, "This is not mine," or "This is an impression, not a fact," whenever an event broke suddenly upon them. Seneca advised keeping the two categories before the mind as a permanent guardrail. A person fully trained will drop what is not theirs to carry and concentrate fire where effort can be decisive. The next move was to test impressions. Impressions were the Stoic term for the initial appearances and interpretations that strike us. Epictetus told his students that an impression is like an unverified report. It must be challenged. Is the event truly terrible? Or does it merely feel that way because it is sudden and unfamiliar? Is the insult catastrophic, or is it a noise that will pass? The practice was to pause, label the impression deliberately, and seek a more accurate description. When Marcus Aurelius felt anger rising, he would say, "You are just a figment. Let me examine your credentials." In doing this, he replaced a cloudy, reactive state with a lucid one. The goal was not to suppress emotion, but to direct attention toward what the situation truly requires. An athlete meets a tough opponent not with panic, but with heightened awareness. So too the Stoic mind meets difficulty with concentrated inquiry. Preparation did not wait for adversity to arrive. It began each morning. In the morning preview, practitioners rehearsed the day ahead. Marcus would anticipate encountering the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, and the selfish. This was not cynicism, it was prophylaxis. By visualizing impediments before they occurred, he prevented shock from becoming anger. Athletes pre-visualize races. Surgeons review the steps of a procedure. Likewise, the Stoic trains by running a mental simulation. Who will I meet? What requests might strain my patience? What sudden changes could derail my plans? What principles will govern my response? This anticipation reduces the startle reflex and makes room for agency. The evening review closed the loop. Seneca recommended a daily audit. What did I do well? Where did I slip? How will I improve tomorrow? The tone was not self-flagellation, but quality control. Failures were noted with specificity and then translated into commitments. Next time, I will pause before answering. Next time, I will ask a clarifying question. Next time, I will recall the dichotomy of control before acting. This habit turns each day into a training data set. Over months and years, the mind becomes patterned toward constancy. Modern research supports the value of such reflective practice. Performance fields consistently show that immediate feedback, followed by structured intention for the next attempt, accelerates skill acquisition. Pre-rehearsal was complemented by a harder drill, negative visualization. Called premeditatio malorum, it was the deliberate, sober consideration that loss, illness, conflict, and death are possible and even likely across a life. The method is to imagine, briefly and distinctly, the absence of what you value. The loss of a position, the failure of a venture, the breaking of a device upon which you rely, a sudden storm canceling plans, or a harsh word from a superior. The purpose is threefold. First, you become grateful for what you currently have, because imagined absence heightens presence. Second, you reduce the destabilizing power of surprise. What you have encountered in thought will not shock you in reality. Third, you can begin to plot responses while calm, assembling procedures rather than improvising in panic. The Stoics, far from courting misery, inoculated themselves against it by small, controlled exposures. They also trained by voluntary discomfort. Musonius Rufus recommended occasional fasting and sleeping on a simple bed. Seneca wore rough clothing now and then and asked himself whether he feared such conditions in principle or merely in habit. The aim was not self-harm, but elasticity. When a span of tolerated conditions is wide, adversity finds you ready. When luxuries become necessities, fragility expands. By practicing with less heat, less sugar, less entertainment, you learn the extent of your genuine needs and the power of your capacity. A person who knows they can do good work without perfect circumstances is formidable. Modern analogs include cold showers, walking rather than driving, or leaving the phone at home during an errand. Each small fast reminds you that comfort is preferable but not required. Language was taken seriously because language shapes perception. Marcus instructed himself to strip things of the legends that encrust them. Instead of saying, "I lost what was dear to me," the Stoic would say, "A mortal thing changed in accordance with its nature." Instead of "My colleagues humiliated me," say, "A person had an opinion, and I felt pain because I gave that opinion power." This stripping is not meant to sterilize life, but to remove melodrama, the varnish of exaggeration that inflames the nervous system. With simpler language, the mind can assess and act. This habit intersects with cognitive therapy principles that ask patients to reframe catastrophic thoughts into precise descriptions. When the storyline becomes accurate, the action plan becomes feasible. The Stoics did not retreat from duty. Training for adversity includes preparing to do your job under difficult circumstances. To that end, they cultivated role ethics. Define your roles: parent, colleague, citizen, neighbor, and identify the standards of excellence for each. Then make these standards your own, independent of external applause or blame. If travel delays imperil your schedule, what does the excellent colleague do? Perhaps write a clear message explaining the delay, propose a solution, and carry the weight of the inconvenience with steadiness rather than spreading panic. If a friend is in crisis, what does the excellent friend do? Perhaps listen, ask what help they desire, and protect their dignity. The idea is to convert abstract virtue into operational checklists that can be enacted even when your heart is pounding. Central to mental resilience is the posture toward fate. A more fatty love of fate was not Stoic vocabulary in those words, but captures their attitude. You do not merely tolerate events. You align with them, using them as material for virtue. Marcus writes, "A blazing fire takes whatever you throw into it and makes it flame and brightness." The metaphor is instructive. Fuel is not chosen, it is used. The trained mind does not ask, "Why this?" It asks, "How can I use this?" If a project collapses through no fault of your own, the opportunity is to practice patience, creativity, and generosity with your team. If you're criticized unjustly, you can practice equanimity and clarity. The choice to interpret events as raw material transforms setbacks from negations into assignments. Breathing and posture were also part of the discipline. Ancient texts do not dwell on techniques in a modern sense, but they assume the interdependence of body and mind. Stoic training, therefore, includes embodied methods. Slow the breathing when arousal spikes. Stand or sit upright to signal readiness. Soften the gaze to widen awareness. Release the jaw to reduce aggression. Speak more slowly when urgency would otherwise provoke rapid, careless words. Each is a lever on the nervous system. When used early, these levers keep the mind online and available for reason. Just as a musician cannot play well when the instrument is badly tuned, reason cannot guide when the body is in alarm mode. So the Stoic first tunes the instrument. They cultivated a panoramic view of time. Adversity often feels monstrous because it occupies the whole field of vision. The Stoic expands the frame. Marcus counsels zooming out to view your life, then your city, then your generation, then the centuries past and to come. In that wider frame, the present difficulty may still be heavy, but it is not absolute. This exercise does not trivialize pain, it situates it. A surgeon performing a grueling operation keeps in mind the patient's longer life. A parent enduring a tough month with a toddler remembers that development is a long arc perspective dilutes panic and leaves resolve. Equally, they zoomed in to the task at hand. Do the work of a human being. Marcus tells himself, one action, rightly at a time. When suffering looms, break it down. What is the next good action? Break that still further. What is the next small motion of that action? One phone call, one email, one breath, one paragraph. The practice is to refuse to be mastered by totality and instead master the next piece. This is a pragmatic antidote to overwhelm. From there, momentum grows, and the mind experiences itself as effective again, which accelerates recovery. Another core drill is value clarification. Why endure adversity at all? Why strive for steadiness? The Stoic answers, because there is a highest good, virtue, consisting in wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are available in every circumstance, whereas externals are merely preferred. If you believe the highest good is wealth, then adversity that threatens income becomes existential. If you hold virtue as the good, then adversity becomes an arena for practice. This is not a semantic trick. It is a relocation of ultimate value from the fragile to the robust. People who survive and thrive through hardship typically have a why that is stronger than any single outcome. The Stoic trains by meditating on virtues, reading examples of noble action, and rehearsing the standards aloud until they are interiorized. Mentors and exemplars were indispensable. Epictetus referred constantly to Socrates as a model of composed courage and rigorous inquiry. Marcus wrote to himself as if in the presence of Antoninus Pius, whose measured character he admired. Seneca pointed to Cato's principled defiance as the image of unbending integrity. We are imitative creatures. By choosing your models, you shape your mind. The Stoic deliberately studies people who bear hardship with dignity. When you must act under pressure, you borrow their posture and phrases. Over time, you make them your own. They reoriented their relationship to opinion and reputation. This is important because much adversity in ordinary life is social. You cannot control what others think of you or say about you, though you can influence it. The Stoic teaches, if you wish to be free, care more about doing right than being seen as right. Marcus reminds himself that the entire parade of opinions will be gone soon. No one can hold you in contempt without your consent. Freedom from the tyranny of reputation liberates energy for real duty. When you fear social judgment less, you act more cleanly and accept setbacks with less noise. They used maxims and compact reminders, short lines that compress principles into phrases easy to retrieve under pressure. Bear and forbear. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. Where the cause of the pain lies, there also lies the remedy. This too is practice. Each maxim is a cognitive trigger that reactivates entire networks of training. When a mind is under strain, long treatises are useless. Short, well-trained phrases are tools. If one carefully chooses a few lines and repeats them across days and months, the mind will offer them up when needed, just as a climber's hands find holds in darkness. The Stoics emphasize selective attention. Do not feed impressions that inflame. Seneca recommends turning away from spectacles of cruelty. Marcus tells himself not to gossip. Epictetus forbids idle complaint, arguing that it strengthens helplessness. The mind becomes what it contemplates. If you want to be steady, contemplate what is steady. The order of nature, the rhythm of the seasons, the courage of quiet people who do their duty well. This does not mean avoiding evidence. It means curating your intake to maintain clarity and purpose. In a media-saturated era, this advice is more salient than ever. A further training is consent to reality. The Stoic does not wrestle with what is already the case. If an event has occurred, it is now part of the material with which you must work. Resentment tries to rewrite the past and wastes energy. The Stoic redirects energy toward adaptation. If your plan depended on sunshine and it rains, the mental move is immediate. Given rain, what is the best next action? This acceptance is not passive. It is active compliance with fact, which positions you to make the most rational move available now. They practice generosity in adversity. When resources become scarce or tempers fray, the default is to hoard or lash out. The Stoic trains to expand rather than contract, share credit, defend the weak, speak calmly, and maintain magnanimity. There is strength in being a source of stability for others. Moreover, generosity reaffirms your agency. You may not control the storm, but you control your posture toward others in the storm. Helping someone else often delivers your mind from fixations of self, widening perspective and renewing courage. They took death seriously, but not morbidly. Memento mori was an ally. Remember you will die. The phrase clarifies priorities. It interrupts procrastination and drains petty irritations of their power. When you recall that life is finite, you ask, what is worth my remaining hours? What conduct befits a mortal who could leave life today? This awareness sharpens attention and nourishes gratitude. The Stoic who remembers mortality wastes fewer words, forgives more quickly, and focuses on work that matters. The posture towards setbacks was summarized in one of Marcus's most famous lines. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is more than rhetorical flourish. It is an instruction to map obstacles to opportunities. If you cannot meet in person, perhaps build a clearer written process. If a budget is cut, perhaps learn to innovate with less. If you're injured, perhaps develop capacities of mind that neglect of health had displaced. The obstacle is not cause for paralysis. It is raw material for skill development. Finally, they valued community. The mind is trained in solitude but tested with others. Stoic ethics treats human beings as parts of a single body, rational creatures tied together by mutual aid. When adversity strikes a community, the Stoic does not secede, they contribute. Training includes learning how to coordinate, how to communicate, and how to accept help. Pride that refuses assistance is a vice masquerading as strength. The disciplined mind knows when to shoulder and when to share weight. To understand how the Stoics train their minds, it helps to watch them in motion, not on the page, but in imagined scenes where their methods are deployed. Consider a merchant whose ship, heavy with goods, is overtaken by a sudden storm. He has families depending on him. The sky darkens, the sea rises. The untrained mind spirals. I am ruined. All is lost. How will I be seen? The trained mind begins with control. The weather? Not up to me. The crew's choices? Partly controllable, mostly not. My own reason, attention, and orders? Yes. Next, he stabilizes the body. Slow, deep breaths to calm the nervous system. He names impressions. Fear is present. Catastrophe is not yet present. Then he acts. Secure the cargo that can be secured, communicate clearly, revise course if possible, and prepare for loss if necessary. He rehearses maxims, do the next right thing. Afterward, if the ship is lost, he practices acceptance. What is done cannot be undone. He inventories remaining capacities and writes the letters that must be written without dramatization. He sees himself as a human being among human beings, not as the universe's target. He plans recovery. He asks, how can this become the way? The storm is not less violent because of philosophy, but it finds a captain who does not multiply its power through panic. Or take a modern version. A talented professional is laid off in a downer. The first hour is shock, then fear, then resentment. The Stoic training activates. Morning preview might have included the possibility of change. Negative visualization has already rehearsed financial contingency. She breathes, writes a list of what is up to her, and sets a tempo. Reach out to 3 contacts today, revise the resume, and schedule a meeting with a mentor. She reframes. This is an opportunity to refine the kind of work that matches her principles. She practices voluntary simplicity, cutting expenses without self-pity. She watches language. Not, I was discarded, but I was released by a firm during a contraction. She remains generous. She sends leads to former colleagues, also affected. She consults exemplars who navigated similar disruptions with grace. Each small act is a repetition that deepens the groove of steadiness. The Stoics also train the mind to withstand injury by addressing the root of anger. Anger is a common reaction to adversity, particularly when you feel wronged. Seneca called anger a brief madness that ruins judgment. The training is to withdraw assent the instant anger surges. Name it as an impression, not a directive. Then examine its claims. I have been dishonored. By what standard? Was the act unjust or merely unkind? Is revenge a remedy or an additional wrong? What would an excellent person do? Often, anger reveals hidden demands. That other people be different, that events bow to our expectations. The Stoic revises those demands into preferences. He does not become inert. He becomes proportionate. In situations of genuine injustice, such discipline allows for strategic, courageous action rather than reckless reaction. History's durable reformers rarely operate from rage. They operate from purpose. Grief, too, was approached with sobriety. The Stoics did not deny the legitimacy of mourning. They warned against grief expanding beyond reason into a total collapse of function. When a friend dies, Marcus permits sorrow but prohibits self-destruction. Remember that all mortal ties are lent, not owned. Honor the person through your conduct. Seneca wrote letters consoling bereaved friends, urging them to accept the law of nature without extinguishing tenderness. The training, therefore, includes building a mind that can feel deeply and act nobly. You can cry and still keep your promises. You can ache and still be gentle. The ideal is not stone but strength. One might ask, is such an orientation compatible with ambition? Yes, but Stoic ambition is directed toward excellence rather than fortune. External outcomes are pursued vigorously, but with the understanding that success lies in the quality of effort, not in victory alone. This orientation reduces the terror of loss. If your identity is bound to a particular outcome, failure destroys the self. If your identity is bound to your values and the quality of your actions, outcomes are data, not definitions. The most inspired performers, the ones who keep improving, tend to measure themselves this way. They are resilient because the core of what they're trying to do cannot be taken by a single setback. The Stoics rehearsed 3 disciplines: perception, action, and will. Perception aims at seeing clearly. Action aims at doing what is just, effective, and cooperative. Will aims at welcoming what occurs and persevering. Under adversity, all 3 must be practiced together. For example, a public health crisis erupts. Perception: evaluate evidence, strip rumor, watch statistics without catastrophizing. Action: follow expert guidance, help neighbors, temper speech, distribute resources fairly. Will: accept restrictions without resentment as contributions to a common effort, maintain morale, and endure monotony with grace. By aligning these disciplines, the individual becomes a stabilizing force. Another aspect of training is the conversion of envy into emulation. Adversity often includes watching others thrive while you struggle. Envy is corrosive because it compares stories without context. The Stoic counters by turning the energy of envy into fuel. What admirable qualities can I cultivate that I see in this person? If their team is more cohesive, what practices produce that cohesion? If their writing is clearer, what habits of drafting, reading, and feedback can I adopt? This turns a passive, bitter stance into an active one. The mind learns to scan for learnable elements rather than for reasons to despair. They practice selective indifference to external praise. Praise is pleasant but unreliable. If you train the mind to feed on it, you become vulnerable to its absence. So the Stoic accepts praise neutrally and asks, does it reflect something true that I should reinforce, or is it a distraction? Likewise with criticism. If it is accurate, it is free coaching. If it is inaccurate, it is noise. The shift from ego to mission keeps you steady. The superior pilot follows instruments in the storm, not the cheers or jeers of passengers. Stoic training also included the refinement of desire. They distinguish between natural, necessary desires, food, shelter, companionship, and those that are unnatural in their excess or socially manufactured. By reducing attachment to the latter, the mind gains freedom. For instance, the desire to be envied corrodes. The desire to be useful strengthens. The desire to dominate is unstable. The desire to contribute is stable. When adversity strips away non-essential desires, the trained mind experiences relief rather than only deprivation. It recognizes the liberation of simpler aims. Resilience was cultivated through rhythm. The Stoics encouraged routines, regular waking, reading, writing, conversation, exercise, service. Routines free cognitive bandwidth. During stress, rituals keep you moving. A morning page of writing clarifies the mind. A short walk at midday resets attention. A nightly audit consolidates learning. These small anchor points make the day navigable, especially when circumstances are chaotically changing. In modern terms, routines are scaffolding. They hold shape while the inner structure is repaired. They also stress the value of leisure properly used. Leisure is not escapism. It is replenishment and study. When adversity subsides, the Stoic does not dissipate in excess, but restores the mind and prepares for the next season. Reading is chosen for depth rather than volume. Conversations are chosen for sincerity rather than entertainment. This measured recuperation prevents oscillation between overwork and collapse. It builds a sustainable life in which adversity is met by a consistently trained mind rather than a depleted one. A key part of their training was to practice honesty with oneself. Self-deception multiplies harm. If you're prone to procrastination, admit it and design systems to counter it. If you overcommit, learn to say no without apology. If you catastrophize, catch the pattern early and interrupt it with reframing. The Stoic is a craftsman of the self, not a flatterer of the self. He would rather know the exact shape of his weakness than pretend to be invulnerable. This candor allows targeted practice. If you know your anger spikes when hungry, you plan meals. If you know your courage falters at night, you schedule hard conversations in the morning. You optimize constraints. They train to see other people as complex causes rather than villains. This reduces friction during adversity. When someone behaves badly, you can ask, what beliefs, pressures, or fears might be driving this? This exercise does not excuse wrongdoing, but dilutes moralistic rage and opens space for effective response. Marcus constantly reminds himself that people act as they think is right, given their limited understanding. Since you share this human limitation, respond with instruction where possible, boundaries where necessary, and forgiveness where wise. You will conserve energy and maintain composure. The Stoics cultivated a relationship with nature as a teacher. Nature demonstrates cycles, limits, and reciprocity. Seasons turn, storms pass, the body heals within parameters. By observing nature, you learn patience, timing, and acceptance. You also learn humility. The universe does not hinge on your preference. This perspective counteracts entitlement, a chief amplifier of suffering. When the mind adopts the attitude, "I was promised ease," every challenge is an insult. When the mind adopts the attitude, "I was promised nothing, and yet I have this chance to do good," every challenge is material. They place attention on the present moment, not as an end in itself, but as the only place action occurs. Regret belongs to the past. Anxiety belongs to the future. Action belongs to now. Training asks, what can be done now that aligns with reason and virtue? Not later, when circumstances are ideal. Now, within imperfect conditions. This orientation produces momentum instead of paralysis. Even a small correct action changes the state of the problem, and with it, the state of your mind. In dealing with fear, the Stoic method is to define, decompose, and do. Define the fear precisely. Lose income, be embarrassed, experience pain. Then decompose the feared event into stages. What would happen first, second, third? What resources would I use? Who could help? Finally, do a small exposure, a controlled, low-stakes version that teaches your nervous system you can survive. This is akin to modern exposure therapy. Repeated, it reduces fear's hold and increases freedom. The Stoics did not pretend that virtue eliminates pain. They proposed that virtue equips you to endure pain with dignity and to convert its energy into service. The Stoic aims to be one person in all rooms, the same values in private and in public. In adversity, this alignment creates calm because there is no performance to maintain. You know who you are and therefore what to do. If mistakes are made, they are owned and repaired. Integrity becomes an energy source. The tradition also teaches reserve clauses. When forming intentions, add fate permitting. This simple addition inoculates you against brittle plans. You commit fully to the act, while acknowledging that outcomes depend on variables beyond your control. I will return home on time, fate permitting. I will secure this contract, fate permitting. The clause keeps you humble, flexible, and prepared to pivot. It protects you from the tantrum of thwarted expectation and makes gratitude easier when things go well. They train for moral emergencies. Epictetus urged students to rehearse values so thoroughly that when crisis arrives, an opportunity to lie, to betray, to profit unjustly, you can act without hesitation. In adversity, many will rationalize shortcuts. The Stoic, already prepared, refuses, not with theatrical purity, but with well-practiced clarity. I do not do that. Such preparation spares you the internal civil war that follows compromised action and preserves the confidence that underwrites long endurance. Stoic training recognizes the power of small beginnings. You do not become resilient by waiting for a grand test. You become resilient by treating daily irritations as training. The spilled coffee, the late bus, the curt email. Each is a chance to practice the dichotomy of control, reframing, proportion, and kindness. Then, when the larger challenges arrive, you have already done hundreds of repetitions. The heavy lift is possible because the smaller lifts have built the muscles. They taught that failure is feedback. When you plan carefully and still fail, the question is not, why me, but what does this reveal? Maybe the market has shifted. Maybe your assumptions were naive. Maybe your preparation was incomplete. The Stoic does not personalize the universe. He updates models and tries again. Pride resists this. Humility embraces it. The mind trained on truth can afford to be wrong many times, because each correction makes it stronger. Finally, the Stoics rested their training on a simple faith, that a human being is capable of becoming better through effort and attention, and that this betterment is worthy in itself, irrespective of applause. There is a dignity in attempting to live well under difficulty. You are not promised ease. You are promised an arena. In that arena, your mind can learn to meet events with clarity. Your will can harden into patience. Your actions can be just and helpful. This is the freedom they sought, to be the kind of person adversity cannot bend away from what is good. If you wish to begin, start small. Tomorrow morning, preview the day. Name 2 likely irritations and plan your responses. At midday, practice 1 minute of slow breathing before a task you usually dread. In the evening, audit. What went well? What will I adjust tomorrow? Pick a maxim and write it on a card. Choose one voluntary discomfort this week. Skip a luxury. Walk in the rain. Practice silence in a queue. Select an exemplar and read a page from their life. Share one kindness without announcing it. And when adversity arrives, as it will, try the course sequence. Control, body, impression, action, will. Then repeat. Training is not glamorous. It is consistent. It is available to anyone. And it works. In time, the mind becomes a companion you can rely on. It will not abolish sorrow, but it will prevent sorrow from swallowing purpose. It will not erase pain, but it will convert pain into patience. It will not silence fear, but it will place fear in the back seat while reason drives. You will begin to sense, even in difficulty, a calm space from which you can choose. From that space, you can be brave for yourself and useful to others. That is the Stoic promise, not a life without storms, but a mind that sails them with steady hands, using every wind to move toward what is good.